Stephen Cooley, and welcome to Stephen Cooley Real Estate Show. I'm very excited to have Tracy Reynolds back to the show. Tracy is a real estate attorney in North and South Carolina, and you handle most of our real estate closings. And I just want to thank you for that. You do an amazing job. Our clients love you.
Thank you.
And you do it flawlessly, so thank you so much. You also do my personal ones, and I thank you for that. I posted out on our social media questions that people have to ask today that they may have about real estate, asking an attorney. And so it seemed like a lot of them went toward when someone passes away, they hear about properties being in probate, people passing away with a will and without a will, joint tenancy versus tenancy in common, when can the property be sold. So could you just hit on all that? Because there are properties out there that we call estate sales, which just means the owner has passed away. We had one question, she's got it pending. Her father was alive when she went pending with the buyer, so she had power of attorney, and now he's passed away. And so just kind of hit that broad spectrum, if you don't mind.
The first thing to point out is there's a power of attorney that is used by an individual while he or she is alive. But once that person passes away, the only person that can act on behalf or transfer title would be either the personal representative of the estate, or depending if they had a will or not a will, heirs or devisees.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is to understand that the power of attorney will no longer be effective. A probate estate has to be open so that someone is authorized to sign.
So when people say the property's in probate, what does that actually mean?
Our probate process is administered by our probate court, and it's a cleansing of the property. Assets are placed into the estate. It allows creditors, heirs, devisees the opportunity to challenge ownership, basically, or what's to be paid. And once it goes through that basically 9-month process, it's determined, particularly by title insurance companies or us, as far as status of title to be clear.
Now, can the property be sold during that time and the money held in that account?
It can be, but typically now, and again bringing back that word title insurance companies, that's companies outside of the attorney's office that insure title.
Right.
They will step in even though that process has not been completed and provide coverage to the lender and the owner if there were to be any claims against the estate, either by heirs, devisees, or creditors.
Right, and this goes back to a situation that people can decide at closing with you, and you explain it better than anybody, so I know you've explained it on my show before, but tell folks the difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. When more than one person is buying real estate, you can pick between those two.
Right, and that is something that was passed by legislature in 2000, and it's most often set up at closings now, but if you purchased before then, more than likely you don't have that language. You would think if you owned a piece of property with someone and paid on it for 20 years that you would get that property in the case that the other person died, but that is not the case in South Carolina unless you have a will or you have it set up joint tenants with rights or survivorship. By placing certain language in the deed, which would be the responsibility of the closing attorney to make sure that that's properly placed in the deed, then upon the death of one of the owners, it would pass to the other person without going through probate. Just upon the filing of a death certificate, it then signals to us that the property is vested completely in the other person. Otherwise, it's going to have to go through probate because you each own an undivided 1/2 interest.
Right.
Without a will, that 1/2 interest would go half to spouse, half to children. And one thing just to point out is that lots of people think that if there's a person that's going to die and they know that that's going to happen, they try to get all the assets out of the person's name, and that's a mistake. Check with your tax advisor because there's transferred basis and stepped up basis. I know those are complicated terms, but know what they are. Don't transfer title out of that person's name without getting advice from an attorney or from your tax advisor.
So at closing, if you want the other owner to inherit the entire property, what should you pick?
Joint tenants with rights or survivorship.
Right. And if you want it to go through your estate and your heirs own that half, instead of the other person.
Tenants in common.
And there you go, and that's the best explanation of that, and thanks for that. I also had a question, why would someone ask when they go to court documents to find out what people paid for property, a lot of times they see that people have paid $1, and they see that like maybe a husband and wife sold it to just one person. So why is it significant to have that $1 in there?
But there has to be a listing of a consideration, something paid, so that's why we state $1. There is an affidavit that's often attached to the deed that may clarify the value of the property or what was actually paid.
Okay.
But lots of times the reason why you see that $1 is that, let's say that we did a closing back in before 2000, and it's tenants in common, we'll then deed the property from the husband and wife to the husband and wife to create that tenancy for $1, and that's the last value shown on GIS or by the tax records.
Excellent information there. And I always ask you this just for people to explain, because it's not true in all 50 states, but why in South Carolina and North Carolina is an attorney involved in the sale of real estate?
The Supreme Court has determined that a real estate transaction, or the fundamentals or the process of real estate transaction, is the practice of law. So an attorney has to supervise the title examination, the recording of the mortgage, the disbursement of the proceeds.
And I'm often asked, what are you going down to the courthouse when you do a title examination? What are you going to look for?
We take the property examination starting with the current owner back 40 years, and we search to make sure first that the entire property was transferred. You wouldn't believe, with the plats that have been recorded and revised, how sometimes the wrong legal description is passed to the next person. But we also check for judgments and liens, mortgages, to make sure that all of those are paid. And also, again, bringing back that word title insurance, to get that policy, the attorney has to submit a 40-year title opinion to that title company for them to agree to cover this owner and this lender in case there's anything that couldn't be seen of record, misrecorded documents, misindexed documents, fraud, missing heirs in the estate.
So after you do that examination, then the title insurance comes in and guarantees that you did find everything, or they make it whole.
Exactly. They provide attorney's fees. If there's a loss, they provide for the loss.
So if you're getting a loan, you have to get title insurance. It's a one-time fee, and it protects the title of the property. If you're paying cash, it's an option, but still a great idea, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Having practiced for 18 years and having seen many things recorded in our courthouses, it is a great idea to get title.
Great information there. Tracy, would you tell folks, if you're looking to buy property, to refinance property, if you feel like you need to switch from one of those ownerships to another, as she talked about, then Tracy is the one to do it for you. And tell folks how to reach you, Tracy.
You can reach me via telephone, 803-328-0150, or my website also has lots of information about how you can hold title. It's threynolds.com.
And that is closing real estate in North Carolina and South Carolina. And you do a great job, and you do both states for us, and we really appreciate you being on today's show. We've got beautiful homes for sale in your area. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. I hope you've enjoyed watching the Stephen Cooley Real Estate Show. If you're interested in advertising your business on the program, please give us a call at 803-326-2777 or send us an email at ask@makeitlocal.com. Join us next week for more discussions on real estate topics and help in finding your perfect home. Thanks for watching.